Hello and welcome to You're Wrong About Musicals. I'm Esme,
And I'm now
and today we are going to be talking about Cinderella slash Bad Cinderella.
Andrew Lloyd Webber's Cinderella.
Yeah, let's just call it that because, yeah, it had a name change. We were all very aware of the name and it's changing.
I'm not your normal Cinderella.
I'm your
I'm your bad Cinderella.
Cinderella. But first, do we want to get into some news? What's been big this week? Nerdy Prudes?
Not Christmas. Oh God.
We watched it on Friday night as it came out, but you were like a minute ahead of me.
Yeah.
And so I would get a ton of texts being like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And I'd be like, okay, something big's about to happen in like a minute.
Yeah. It was so good though.
It was amazing. I think I need to spend some more time with it and work out where it goes, like in my ranking of Star Kid.
I'm gonna say tentatively right now, I don't think it's the best Star Kid one. I think in terms of like production quality and like from a technical standpoint, it's definitely the best
It's
Star Kid one.
amazing.
But you can only expect that from they've been doing this for years and years and years.
And their budgets have increased every time.
Yeah. In terms of just which one I like the most, I think it's honestly still the guy didn't like musicals.
I
It's
really
classic.
I really do like Black Friday though. But the one thing I will say about that I noticed about Nerdy Prudes is it's a lot of setup.
Yeah.
There is so much setup for it, but once the plot starts, it's very entertaining.
I don't know if I missed it somehow. If I was just being stupid. I could not see where the like interval was, like where the axe broke.
Yeah, same. I was trying to work that
I could
out.
not tell. My thought was it had to be around Hatchet Town.
I think it was the song before Hatchet Town. I think it was like the big game.
Yeah, my assumption was always by the way, spoilers for Nerdy Prudes Must
Oh
Die if you
yes.
haven't watched it yet. I should
Spoilers.
mention I'm about to get really into it. I figured because this is I had to say that because my next sentence is because Richie died at the beginning,
Yes.
and that was like the first scene.
Yeah.
I figured because we then went back to figure out why he died, he had to die before the end of the first act. Otherwise, there was no point in having him die at the beginning.
No, exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
So I figured that must happen. So that's why I figured the game was probably the end of Act One. But that was also like, but Hatchet Town could also be an Act One closer, but it could also be an Act Two opener.
I think Hatchet Town works so well as an Act One opener in my mind.
Yeah.
And having it end with because that's when the plot really starts getting going when Richie is murdered.
Yeah.
That's when momentum really starts to build. And I remember I tweeted, "We're so back. It's a Hatchet film musical. The town's just gone into lockdown."
Yeah.
Because in my mind, like that's when the plots always start because the town always goes into lockdown, and then you get the chaos of everyone like becoming.
Did that happen in Black Friday?
I think they did.
No, they were just kind of stuck there.
Yeah.
They could have left. They
just
didn't.
They just didn't.
They theoretically could have left.
But when they all become contained in a space, that's when these musicals really get going.
Okay. Also, in terms of timeline, Nerdy Prudes definitely comes first.
100%.
Because you get the summoning. We were trying to figure this out. We talked about it very briefly. She was like, there's 5 places in Hatchetfield that are linked to like this power. Number 1 is the Hatchetfield High. And we were like, of course. That's Nerdy Prudes.
The mill, which is converted into the mall where Black Friday takes place.
Yeah, she talks about either the mill or the mall, like specifically mentions the mall, which is Black Friday. And we think the Starlight Theatre,
because that's where it first crashes because of the production of Mamma Mia.
Yeah. I really want to I need to watch the Nightmare Times. Because I've only seen like half the first one and I feel really bad about it. And I just haven't watched them.
That's where a lot of the lore comes from with this, because you have like kind of just the space to get into it.
Yeah. I know there's one which is like goes really in depth about like Lex and Hannah.
Yeah.
Yellow Jacket. It's called Yellow Jacket. And I really want to like watch it or listen to it. I just haven't.
I really liked like the
Now
little
is the season.
Yeah, it is. I really liked the little callbacks that they did in like a very nice way. They always get the cameos just perfect in these things.
Yeah.
Where it's like a nice little if you know, you know, but it's not
I
overpowering.
keep seeing people being like, oh my God, in every universe,
Yeah.
Paul and
I
Emma are
texted
destined to
you
end up
that.
together.
I
Oh my
texted you
God.
that. I saw an edit of the two of them using Timeless by Taylor Swift.
Oh God. That I love them.
And also I
I
loved
like I
seeing
like the hot chocolate boy stuff.
oh yeah, I loved seeing Gerald.
Gerald. We were about half of the text we sent to each other while we were both watching um was like, when is General McNamara showing up? Where is he?
He
And
needs to
then
come. He's the only one who
Jeff
can
Blinn
save
makes
us.
one cameo in Hatch's House. I was like, I see that motherfucker.
Yeah.
He doesn't.
He doesn't.
Spoilers, he doesn't.
Spoiler alert, he doesn't. Grace Chastity, it took us so long to finally meet her, but I love her.
I do. I saw a lot of people being like, it's very interesting. If you take Nerdy Prudes Must Die as being the first one,
yes, yeah,
then that's how she already is. And it's very interesting that in every other musical, she's like seen as this she's like very respected. Like in Guardian Like Musicals,
why can't you be more like Grace
fuck, was
Chastity?
Bill?
Bill.
He says, Bill, either why can't you be more like Grace Chastity or why can't you date someone more like Grace
Yes.
Chastity? And then in Black Friday, they want Grace Chastity to babysit. I think
she's the
either Tim or Lex.
Tim, yeah, babysit
Yeah.
Tim. And they're going, and now I'm defending Grace. Who said, like, is it? It's the guy who like musicals where it goes, and now I'm defending Grace Chastity of all people.
Yeah.
Which is like actually like such a perfect line because for what we know about her, because the town views her as this very, I can't believe I'm getting so fucking deep about this Star Kid musical.
I fucking love Star Kid. It's all so well thought out.
We are gonna do. We've not.
I promise we're gonna get into Bad Cinderella.
Yeah, we are gonna get into Bad
eventually.
Cinderella in like 2 seconds, but we've not worked out how we're gonna do the Hatchetfield series, but it's gonna come soon.
Because I would love to do it right now. I'd love to say fuck Bad Cinderella. We're talking about the entire Hatchetfield series because I could talk about it for hours.
Yeah.
I feel bad talking about it when, one, like I said, I haven't seen The Nightmare Times
Yes.
properly. Two, we haven't seen The Working Boys. I think it's technically a short film. We couldn't afford it because we're uni students and we're broke.
I'd rather
so for us it comes out
then.
Yeah. It comes out on like the 30th for us or around then.
Yeah.
So we'll watch it then. And also when the series isn't done.
Yeah, so
because whatever I say now, when the next musical comes out, I'll be like, fuck that was wrong. Now.
The question is do we look at the musicals that are already out as one and just do one big episode on all of them, or do we do smaller episodes on each of them and look at them, like go chronologically?
I feel like that's the problem we get, because if we say, oh, we'll do a smaller episode on each of them, whatever we say about the Guardian musicals, we won't be able to talk about it as a singular musical without factoring in what happens in Black Friday and Nerdy Prudes.
Exactly.
Because like you can say, this is what happens in the Guardian Didn't Like Musicals, and this is, what it means and how it fits into the storyline. However, something entirely different happens in the other two musicals. And so actually this is not how it fits into the storyline.
Yeah.
So at this point we cannot talk about them separately.
And also like we've had a lot of time to live with the Guardian Like Musicals, especially since it just turned 5, which I can't believe. And
it feels like I've been waiting for 5 fucking years.
I loved that joke.
And I have still not received my hot chocolate.
There's only one. I loved like the little one-liners. There's only one man I submit to, and that's Jesus. And I do get, we're gonna bury the bully, just stuck in my head. Yeah.
I think Max Yeager might be my favorite character ever. Purely for the way he speaks. He's like, and the skeleton? That was really special.
Yes,
I keep saying it. That was really special.
About like one every Starkid musical, we just have this thing that we just keep saying back and forth.
What was it before?
I think
what was it for Guardian Like Musicals?
Black Friday was
Gerald. We definitely did Gerald.
Guardian Like Musical, we had a couple.
The Cinnabon.
Cinnabon. It was
Cinnabon.
Guided Like Musicals, it was Vocal Rest.
It was, yeah. Oh, Vocal Rest.
I got Vocal Rest. You're on what?
We had a ton from the Guided Like Musicals. We talked about Working Boys all the
Working
time.
Boys, literally all the time. And it was also there was also the Fuck Brigadoon.
Yeah.
But no, to wrap up our thoughts on that, like I haven't lived with Nanny Prudes Must Die as long, so like my thoughts aren't as good.
Yeah. I think it parodies like not even teen musicals, but especially teen movies really well.
We were like,
It's so
there was
good.
one part where I was like, this is literally a scene out of Heathers right now.
Yeah.
This is a scene.
I liked when they were like, now no minors are allowed out after this time. It's like, what is this footloose plot? What like, it does it really well.
I like to also when it
It feels
started and you texted
have
me
you
like
seen
this is in from Carrie and I was like, yeah, fucking hate that song.
have you
No,
seen
I don't like it.
Not Another Teen Movie?
Yeah.
It felt like that a lot.
Yes.
But I not as much as how Not Another Teen Movie does like direct parodies of certain scenes, but in just that like it really felt like that.
Yeah. But also like I felt like it was their most thought out musical that they've done. Like it was
Apparently it was the first one they wrote in the Hatchetfield series, which makes sense because that's why we knew about it for so long.
Yeah. Wait, is it the first one they wrote?
Yeah, and apparently that's what I've seen. I have no proof.
See, because I was sat there.
Trust me.
Me when I was talking about the 6 Broadway announcement. So I had
That's most of our sources for the Phantom episode. Source, I know this.
No, this episode I've got sources upon sources upon sources because some of the shit that it said is so unhinged that you need a source.
Yeah.
But I was sat there and I was like, these guys are genius because this is so well plotted. And then now finding out that it's their first one, I'm like, that makes complete and total sense for me.
Not like their first one, but like the first Hatchetfield one.
No, that makes sense.
That does make sense because that's how you get the like there are these 5 locations. I remember when Virgin Like Musicals came out and we knew that there was going to be Nerdy Prudes.
Yes.
And one other one, and we're like, oh, the Hatchetfield trilogy.
So that's where the trilogies come
the Hatchetfield trilogy. I don't even remember what it was, but they're like, you guys know it's not a trilogy, right? It's a series. Like, it's a
My only worry is that they're not going to be able to get past Hatchetfield.
No, they will.
Okay. Right.
I think no, because they've done so many other iconic musicals.
Yeah. But like
they did Harry Potter musical. They did Firebringer. They did Twisted. You fucking love Twisted.
I love Twisted, actually. I take that back.
Have you seen their like if you go on how they've organized their like playlists on YouTube? They have stuff for like original musicals, which is stuff like all the Hatchetfield, I think Firebringer.
Yeah.
And some other stuff, but I can't remember what off the top. I think like Me and My Dick, which is a great musical.
Alright, just caught me off guard. The name of it.
And then they have like parody musicals.
Yeah.
Which is stuff like Annie, Harry Potter, Twisted, all of that stuff. And then they obviously have all the Tin Can Bros stuff, which isn't Star Kid, it's Tin Can Bros.
Original, isn't it?
Trails to Oregon is original.
Love Trails to Oregon.
But then like Spies Are Forever is Tin Can Bros.
Yeah. But I think that's where we're gonna have to park our Star Kid discussion. We will continue it.
We could go on. We could go on.
If our texts are of us watching it are any indication.
Yeah. Guys, I'll say this.
Go on.
I don't know if you guys have noticed. All what fucking 10 of our listeners. Love you guys.
Yeah.
Love you. We've been trying to do more spooky themed episodes for Halloween, hence Bad Cinderella.
It's the scariest musical of all.
The scariest musical. And Addams Family, the second scariest musical.
Yeah.
But like those kind of like Halloween-y musicals. Phantom, which I'm seeing on Halloween.
Yeah,
spoilers. I'm seeing it's not even a spoiler. Update, I'm seeing Phantom on Halloween. I had a point with this. But yeah, I feel like next year they won't all be up next year because they don't have time to do it for the next one because they won't have time to do another one this year.
No, it's like if they were doing another one this year, then we'd know about it already.
They would be doing either rehearsals or performance now.
They'd be like the cast would be out at the very least.
Yeah.
A name would be announced.
But I'm just saying next year, maybe you'll get some Hatchetfield stuff.
Hatchetfield stuff. We were gonna do an Eddie Prudes one, but then we were like Addams Family.
Prudes.
Oh, I keep
This has
saying
been
it wrong.
pissing me off for about 5 years now.
Keep saying it wrong.
Every time we've talked about this, I say, "Oh yeah, nerdy prudes,
The
prudes
first time
with
you
a
said
D,
it.
the name of it." And she's like, "Oh yeah, nerdy prunes, prunes, the fucking food, prunes."
The first time you said it, it didn't compute right in my head, and now like I'm just stuck like this.
And it's not even like a speaking thing. Like it's not like she's like because we have weird fucking English accents where we can't say words right.
Yeah,
It's
I mean,
not like
we don't
it
say
just
words.
sounds like she's saying it. In text, I'll get text, and she's like, "When are you watching Nerdy Prunes? What do you think Nerdy Prunes is going to be about?" And it's pissing me off.
In other news, Shocked has been stopped closed out of its theatre.
Has it?
Yeah. Anyway, also Gatsby started performances,
And we can't go and see it.
and we can't go and see it, and no one is taking bootlegs.
Guys, I
Which is
would
like
never
a-
watch a
It's like
bootleg.
a good
However,
thing.
get over yourself and fucking record Gatsby.
It's like a good thing that no one's committing legal activity, but if anyone is committing legal activity, please send it to me so that I can stop it and send them like a very strongly worded email.
Yeah. The only thing I would never watch a
Never
bootleg,
watch
and I would
bootleg.
never condone like recording bootlegs.
No, 100% not.
But especially not of Star Kid shows. I saw people like trying to release their Star Kid bootlegs. Don't do that.
I've
It'll
not
be
seen any
out.
Star Kid bootlegs because anyway, but we're not getting into it. Anyway, anyone have any Gatsby bootlegs? Send them my way so I can report them.
Yeah.
So far, I've seen one, and I can't download it for safekeeping so that I can report it to the correct authorities, which is very rude. Anyway, time to get on to Bad Cinderella or Cinderella. Are we ready?
Dear Lord.
Dear Lord, help us on this journey. Cinderella or Bad Cinderella is a musical with music by Andrew Lloyd Webber, lyrics by David Zippel, and a book by Emerald Farrell, who had just won an Oscar. Fennel. Yeah, Fennel. Who had just won an Oscar for her work in Promising Young Woman and has known Andy forever as he was a friend of her parents.
And isn't that the dream?
Isn't that what all of us aspire to be? And
yeah. That's actually how he met his first wife. That's a joke. That's not quite true, but it is kind of true.
Like, kind of true as well.
It's kind of true.
First
anyways
mention of the episode.
anyways,
it was directed by Lawrence Connor, who is slowly becoming one of my enemies. Like, nothing good happens when Lawrence Connor is in the building. Basically, the origins of this fucking musical are when Emerald Fennel was working on Killing Eve. She went for lunch with Andy, and he explained he was looking for a new angle on a fairy tale. He had like received synopsis of Cinderella featuring with one of them, featuring her working in the wardrobe department in Hollywood, and left her footprints in wet cement outside the Chinese theater.
Okay, that kind of eats actually. That's actually kind of good.
Wish you would have made that. Andy said in one of his many interviews, it's about being obsessed with changing yourself and being like the Kardashians.
Shut up, man.
The form Andrew Lloyd Webber sitting down to watch the Kardashians made me giggle though.
Like, my understanding, and I'm gonna be real, we're gonna have to give a shout out to a certain YouTuber for their video explaining Bad Cinderella.
Oh yeah.
Because it's very good. But
and she went to go see it. We did not, but we regret not seeing Cinderella every day.
I feel really bad. I wish I'd gone and seen it. But Ashley Norton did a video called The Excruciating Tale of Bad Cinderella. It's like 2 hours long, and roughly an hour of it is explaining one, Andrew Lloyd Webber in general, and two, the plot.
Yes.
Everything else is about like the story of the production of Bad Cinderella.
Yeah.
It's a very interesting video. And she describes the plot perfectly with like little paper cutouts.
Yeah, she put effort into this.
Yeah. And I remember watching it and I was like, this cannot be the plot.
No,
this cannot be what happens in an Andrew Lloyd Webber musical.
It is.
It's bad.
It's so bad.
And we were saying earlier, the plot of Bad Cinderella is bad. But the plot being bad is not what makes the musical bad. It's
the
just
plot,
another thing that's bad about
yeah.
it.
So the really interesting thing with Cinderella is like Andrew Lloyd Webber is not new to writing bad musicals.
Yeah.
But
I mean, we've
how
seen Love Never Dies.
I think Love Never Dies is actually better than Bad Cinderella.
Oh, definitely.
More
But like,
entertaining.
I think the thing is, Bad Cinderella is objectively bad. Like, it is a
Yes.
bad musical.
Yes.
Love Never Dies is specifically like worse if you know Phantom, and everyone
Yeah.
knows Phantom. If
Yeah.
you like had no idea what Phantom was about, and you were like, let me just go and see let me just go and see Love Never Dies, you'd one be really confused as to what the hell was happening, and two would kind of enjoy it a lot more.
Yeah. But like I was like I'm entertained by parts of it and I listened to like especially this week I listened to like parts of it of like Love Never Dies and I was like this isn't actually too bad. Whereas like I got halfway through
I
listening to Bad Cinderella and I was like
it's
I can't do this anymore.
I love specifically I think it's the Australian cast recording Love Never Dies. Specifically for the song Devil Take the Hindmost.
Oh.
It's the funniest song in the musical. No, but this song it's the funniest song because the actors are so funny in it. It's like, I'm not afraid of him. Not afraid of me, you say. They act it in such a funny way. And when we saw it, it was so funny. Like I definitely said this before. Love Never Dies is where Andrew Lloyd Webber discovered comedy.
And I really wish he hadn't.
And he tries to bring it back in Bad Cinderella. It doesn't work.
Doesn't. Anyway, we'll get onto that when we get onto our thoughts. But according to Nikolai Foster, Lloyd, who is like a producer at the Leicester Curve, Lloyd Webber scores marks the return to the game or if you've got you've got rock anthems and the excitement of Jesus Christ Superstar. There are waltzes with nods to Rodgers and Hammerstein with mind-blowing Bohemian Rhapsody inspired segment in the second half. What musical are they watching?
Yeah, I can see parts of this. Like I definitely get the nods to Rodgers and Hammerstein. Like we all know
We'll get
that.
onto it.
They accused him of plagiarism. I hate to defend Andrew Lloyd Webber, but it was not plagiarism.
Do do
Um,
do 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 do.
yeah,
What song am I singing? Is it the Rodgers and Hammerstein version of Cinderella or is it Bad Cinderella?
it could be either, but it's not plagiarism.
It's not
Um,
plagiarism. It's just Andy being a Hammerstein stan or Richard Rodgers stan.
I can kind of see the Jesus Christ Superstar stuff if I squint. If I was, I mean,
Bohemian
I kind of already
Rhapsody.
am. Yeah, I cannot get Bohemian Rhapsody. I was gonna say I'm already kind of half deaf, so I guess if I just didn't pay attention to the music as much, I could get Jesus Christ Superstar.
Yeah.
I do not get Bohemian Rhapsody.
No.
I'm trying to
Uh,
think what song it could possibly be.
no clue. In May of 2019, Cinderella would have its first ever workshop that was public at our favorite place, the Other Palace,
The
after the
Other
studio.
Palace.
In a write-up by Mark Shunton, who was an Andy Sand, states that there was an intimate workshop with less than 300 people being able to go per performances, and there was like 3 performances done, so like 900 people saw this thing in its first time. It like both write-ups that I've read about this initial workshop, they both note that the Other Palace had seemingly taken the place of Sidmonton.
Yeah,
as like
which is kind of interesting.
because now he doesn't own the Other Palace.
No, actually, I was gonna say, could the Bohemian Rhapsody thing be like around the fairy godmother stuff?
Yeah,
Like Beauty Has a Price?
yeah,
Do you know that song? That's the
maybe.
one with the line you like.
Oh yeah,
Do you can kind of
that's
I'm
just
really
offensive.
trying to justify what this person has said.
That's just offensive to Queen, though.
No,
At
it
that point,
definitely is, but you can kind of get Bohemian Rhapsody.
yeah,
I'm saying that more because it's like a really long song.
yeah, it is. Yeah,
It's
it,
like 6 minutes long.
actually for Andy, that's pretty tame. He likes a long song.
What was, oh my God, wait, where is that song that, is it Far Too Late? Where everyone was like, why does this song go on that long?
Maybe.
There's what, it's like, it's a Cinderella song, I think, in the second act,
Oh, I think I know what
where
you're talking
she
about.
just kind of
It's like the
keeps going
10th
on.
ballad.
Yeah. That's
Um,
the thing I'm saying. Like all of like saying it's a return to rock. It's all these rock songs. It's like every other song is a ballad.
of just Cinderella being like, no one likes me.
I'm ugly and no one likes me and I should go and change myself. Actually, I shouldn't. I will never change myself. Actually, I
I'm
will.
Bad Cinderella. So Shenton says 1,000,000 miles from a panto, but something thrilling and new. Lloyd Webber showstoppers delivered by quite one of the starriest ensemble cast I've ever seen. We have Carrie Hope Fletcher in the Taylor May's title role, Tyrone Huntley as her suitor Sebastian, Victoria Hamilton Barrett as her hilarious stepmother, Sophie Isaacs, and Rebecca Terham as her stepsisters, and Ruthie Henschel as the Queen.
It was a really good cast.
Saying that was just the workshop cast. It would change for its thing with some of the roles staying, but like insane.
But it is even when it went on West End and when it went on Broadway, to be fair, it was a really good cast.
Yes, and then in a write-up by the New York Post, who are normally like more snarkier, by Michael Riedel, stated the synopsis of Cinderella having a modern twist, but it's still set in the land of castles and fairy godmothers. The title character doesn't need Prince Charming to fulfill her needs, but in this retelling, Prince Charming is gay and runs off with the Duke. Cinderella falls in love with Sebastian, an adorable oddball. The tight space meant that some VIPs were on a wait list. Everyone is dying to get in. Someone who could usually snap his fingers and get a seat to anything. There were only 3 performances, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. The VIPs who did score seats included the Schuberts, the Nederlanders, producer Scott Rudin, Disney's theatrical head Thomas Schumacher, actor Michael Caine, and various producers and theatre owners who book shows throughout the United States. It feels like a Broadway League conference, but with better food and wine. In tackling Cinderella, Lloyd Webber follows in the footsteps of his hero, Richard Rodgers. It could go to the West End, then Broadway, but I'm also hearing there's a possibility of a Netflix series. I would do anything for that.
A lot to get through there.
Yeah, a lot to unpack.
The idea of having even VIPs who could, like they said, usually get into anything they want have to wait. That's kind of funny. Shout out to Andy for that. Everything else. I mean, to be fair, it did go to the West End and then to Broadway.
Yeah.
If there was a Netflix series, by God, we'd be watching it.
We should be invited to the premiere.
Please let us in.
Let us in because he can't let us into Sidminton because it's not a thing anymore. So let us into the premiere of Cinderella.
I think Sidminton is still a thing.
No, I just don't think he's doing his festivals there anymore because he's quit.
I think he is.
Okay. Are you manifesting that he is?
Yeah, because I want to go.
There would be a second workshop in the Palladium, held in a room in the Palladium in October of 2019, according to Carrie Hope Fletcher. It was announced that a West End run of Cinderella at Andrew Lloyd Webber's Cinderella would be happening around the 15th of February 2020, with Carrie Hope Fletcher starring it, and the only easy proof to find of this and dates and stuff is her vlogs.
Yeah.
So shout out to her. Watching this video is actually really sad because of how excited and happy she looks to be doing
I think that's the thing. I can get so easily why all of the cast was so excited to be in it.
She was it's title-made role in Andrew Lloyd Webber's brand new musical. This is the biggest thing ever, and it is.
And in all honesty, keeping in mind it's 2019, the plot of it was kind of perfect.
Yeah. Having an Oscar, a newly crowned Oscar winner for Promising Young Woman, which is a very feminist film.
Yeah. And then the plot, when we get to the synopsis, I actually don't think if the synopsis does it properly.
No.
But the basic idea, the basic idea of a lot of the plot is there is this town that is obsessed with being perfect and beautiful, and everyone has to be perfect and beautiful. And then there is one girl who doesn't care for that, and she dresses how she wants. She dresses kind of grunge. I'm realizing as I'm saying this, it's basically just a YA novel.
It is, yeah. You should have written a YA novel.
Yeah. And she dresses different, and she's so cool and edgy, and no one likes her, except for the prince. But she doesn't like the prince. And then it kind of falls apart in the second act, I will say. But that was the basic plot that was marketed in a lot of places. And that sounds great. Even to me now, knowing what Bad Cinderella is and everything about it, I can unironically say that I probably would go and see something if it had that plot.
Especially like in 2019, I think
Especially in
in
2019.
2019, especially like where I was with like thinking and like what I thought was really cool and edgy, I would have been like that would have been the
Yeah.
shit for me. But
It kind of it because it almost follows the kind of in a weird way, it almost sounds like what the plot of Heathers is.
exactly like, and again with the
There's this girl
casting of
who's such an outcast, and then she gets into the popular group, but she's still kind of quirky. Don't worry, she's not like a cool girl. She's quirky.
Carrie Hope Fletcher is very much appealing to
Yeah,
younger people. And like I remember at the time when this happened, thinking like, oh my God, like this is such a big deal for her. And also like he's gonna move the show to Broadway and I wonder if he's gonna take her with her, the show.
yeah,
I remember that being the general assumption at the time and everyone kind of rallying around it.
yeah. I think it started. I'm gonna say this tentatively, but even when it kind of opened on the West End,
Yes.
it started off pretty strong.
Oh no, yeah, we'll get so
Like it was pretty well liked when it opened.
we will get to it, but it will blow
In a,
your mind.
it was pretty well liked.
It got 5-star reviews from every major publication.
Yeah, and
Although they
that's
all
so
gave
weird to us
5-star
now.
reviews to Mincemeat, so I don't know if I can trust them.
Oh, I don't trust that. But here's the thing, I hate to say it, I actually really don't. But from like a reviewing standpoint, I can kind of see why you might give Mincemeat 5 stars. It's a touching story.
Yeah,
I think like Cinderella or Bad Cinderella getting 5 stars is pretty impressive for what the actual show is.
yeah. So, I mean, let's get into like, because I think what's important with Cinderella and how it got to the place where it got all these 5-star reviews is all the build up that led to its opening.
Yeah.
So, let's get into that.
God, yeah.
As we said, Cinderella was originally slated to open at the end of August 2020. However, on the 5th of March 2020, Andy would say that it would now open on the 9th of October 2020, basically saying, in a statement, the tickets for the show will go on sale next week as planned. But due to the current global circumstances, the creative team and I felt like a later opening date was wise. Full scale
This is
pre-rehearsals
going.
for Cinderella will take place as planned throughout this month.
Can I just say, this is so like the week before half term in March.
This is
We
the
were like,
week,
what?
like 2 weeks before we went into lockdown.
Yeah. But do you remember? You definitely do. The week before half term in March 2020 for us, we were
Yes.
like, what I think is going to happen is that they're going to extend like the closure of the school for
No, they're
half
gonna
term, so off for
extend
like a month.
Easter. They're gonna extend Easter by 2 weeks, so we're off for a month. And then we'll
Yeah.
come back for GCSEs.
Yeah, then they'll let us back in. Or they might just do like a like only will come in for GCSEs on those days, you know. I remember, do you remember Primrose Kitten, who did like
Yes.
the maths videos?
Yes.
And she was like, it's very unlikely that they'll cancel exams.
Yes.
They won't do that. And we're like,
No.
okay, so we'll be back, later. We might have to
We're
catch
so
up during
back.
summer, but that'll be
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah, they might be pushed back by like 2 weeks or so.
Yeah, we'll do the exams later or something, or
Andy
it'll
is
just be
so
us.
like delusional.
He's not delusional. That's what I'm saying. Every single person
No, I
thought
get what
that.
you mean. But he becomes very delusional. The show
Yeah.
reportedly cost £6 million of investment. Like, so
Jesus.
this is how much money we're playing with here. This would obviously not happen because there will be a full-scale lockdown beginning on the 23rd of March 2020. I have no memories of what happens to
What,
Andy
like in general or
in
about Bad
general.
Cinderella?
In general, I was like,
I
checked out.
remember.
Check. I remember right up until like we went into lockdown, and then it's all a bit like I kind of remember this happening.
I woke up at 4 a.m. every day and went to bed at 8 for like 2 weeks. For literally no reason.
Oh yeah, same.
And then I started putting all-nighters instead. And then I'd sleep in the day.
Yeah.
I really just experimented with what my body could handle for those like first few months. I was really like, you know what? Fuck it. Let's see.
I think the Glee cast were my most listened to artist that year. I feel like that's something that I forgot we need to know about my 2020. So on the 19th of June 2020, Andy stated that he would use the Palladium to trial safety measures in July to demonstrate to the government whether or not theatres could reopen without social distancing. He stated that he would be using similar measures methods that ensured the swift reopening of the touring production of Phantom in South Korea.
Well, he had to.
We'll get into it in a moment, but I completely understand why he was like, Phantom has to go on. Like, I love Phantom. It's such this big thing. Like, Phantom should come back. But like, fucking Bad Cinderella, that's what he like risked his entire career over.
No, to be fair, hate Andy. I know that's very different. I know I've always said I love Andy. The reality is, I think he's kind of weird, and I think he's made some very bad decisions.
As we'll get into, he is an arsehole.
Yeah, he is like a horrible person. I love Andy in an ironic way. I think he's insane.
In the way that you like love to hate like insane reality TV people. Like,
you know how people love Trisha Paytas?
Yes.
That's like how I feel about Andrew Lloyd Webber. I love him like people love Trisha Paytas. Anyways, what I was gonna say is, say what you will about him, I genuinely don't actually think he's a good person. I don't like him. However, his commitment to reopening theatre and getting jobs for theatre people back open.
Oh yeah.
Very iconic.
It is iconic. So they said,
he knows that theatre is a very temperamental industry.
Yeah.
If you're not in a job, you're not earning money and you can't afford to live.
Yeah, exactly.
So if no one can earn money, I just broke my mic. If no one can earn money, the theatre will be a dying art. And he had to keep open. He had to keep Phantom open as well. If they lost so much money that he couldn't even afford to keep Phantom open,
we'd be dead.
Yeah, or if it closed and they're there because we would never be able to reopen theatre, because that was just our life now. We were in lockdown forever.
That's what I genuinely thought for like a solid 6 months.
I genuinely thought there was going to be a point. Like, there was going to be no cure. At some point, they were just going to be like, you know what, fuck it, go back out, survival of the fittest, we'll see what happens.
Really, I just thought like we were going to be in lockdown forever, and theatre was just like gonna die.
Yeah, I mean,
dark times.
I think theatre would have survived in some way, because we genuinely want to do an episode on like theatre during the pandemic, because we have stuff like the Ratatouille.
Someone randomly brought that up to me the other day. I was just sat around and they were like, do you guys remember the Ratatouille? And everyone else was like, no. And I was like, well, you guys don't remember the Ratatouille?
See, you had stuff like that, and then you had I would say the rise of theatre influences in lockdown.
Oh yeah.
Remind me if I'm wrong. I also might mispronounce his last name, but JJ
Newman? Yeah, he became big during lockdown, yeah.
Yeah, because he did a ton of those like Broadway actors when our mics are on versus when they're off, during quarantine. All that stuff.
And like, you got biggest COVID success story this episode.
There are a few it could be. Because I was also going to say, like, that's why you also. Oh yeah, like Bridgerton. You also see a rise in Star Kid stuff because they did a ton of stuff over the pandemic.
Also, you could watch them.
You could watch the musicals back. I think I might be wrong about this. I feel like at least some of the Nightmare Time stuff was done during the pandemic.
Yeah, because like they're all in like different things and they're all over Zoom.
Yeah, it was like on Zoom.
Yeah, but anyway, Andy.
But basically, what I'm saying is, I think theatre would have survived. Andy just really wanted live theatre to come back.
Yes, yeah, no. The key thing is that they have incredibly good hygiene both backstage and in the cast and crew and the front of house. He said his production in South Korea closed with the outbreak of the virus but reopened. They basically were like temperature checking, self-cleaning antibacterial door covers, audience wear face masks and uses hand sanitizer. That's what they wanted, which would happen like when theatre would come back like in 2021. That's what would happen. Like, you'd have to like check in, they'd do temperature checks, and you would have to wear a face mask. Ahead of his time, trendsetter. His hope was to demonstrate.
I'm just also gonna say, I think you skipped over some of it, but he wanted some like really advanced technology.
Yes, yeah.
No, that you would not see anywhere else.
He wanted an infrared camera at the stage door with your temperature taken remotely as you walk in, and a great big dashboard flashes up to indicate whether or not you can come in the building or not. As soon as it does, the airlock releases and the door opens and you can go in. Like,
you were not seeing this anywhere else. Like, that's not like the kind of technology that they were like implementing in other places to keep them open.
Not even in hospitals. Like,
not in hospitals, not in government buildings, not in anything like that.
I had to go to a hospital for my braces, which I'm not going to talk about because I'm so pissed about it.
I know.
I was meant to have my braces off this week, guys. I know I'm a grown-ass woman with braces.
Oh,
I don't want to talk about it. But no, I'd go there because my teeth are fucked, and they would literally just like take your temperature and give you a mask.
Yeah, like this technology did not exist anywhere. And he was like, I need this for my production of Bad Cinderella at the Palladium.
No, this was his pilot production of the Palladium, which it was just like some random performances they threw together. What I hope
like to be fair, what you said about him being a trendsetter is very true, because he was like, we're going to do socially distanced performance, like someone in every other seat, masks all the time. He taught, I think at some point, I don't know if he did this or if he just talked about it, he was like, the performers are going to wear masks.
I think performers did wear masks backstage.
I have some memory of, I don't know if it ever actually happened, but there was talk of them wearing them on stage.
Yeah, that was a thing that was thrown around. So Andy said, I hope
the
to
duck masks.
Yes, I hope to be able to demonstrate to the government what happened in South Korea. The final pieces of equipment would be delivered to the Palladium, and hoped that tests can begin the first week of July. With just under 2,300 seats, the Palladium has the biggest capacity out of 7 of the London venues that the LW Group owns. The test will determine whether or not audiences could safely return without social distancing relative. This severely reduces the number of tickets that can be sold, with an estimated production of seats due to social distancing for theatres is 80%. Most theatres need to sell at least half normal capacity to break even. On the
again, at this point, all of this is still kind of fair.
Yeah, this is like very rational behavior from him.
Well, I wouldn't say rational.
Nothing
because,
he does is ever insane, but like this is.
I wouldn't say rational isn't quite the word. Like, but it makes
how
sense.
Unhinged he becomes throughout this process. Like, I'm reading this and I'm like, yeah, this is like normal.
He like, again, I think he's hilarious.
It's your Trisha Paytas.
He really, like, spoilers for what we're gonna talk about at some point. When he's like, I want to get arrested in order to reopen the theatres.
I have read that entire Telegraph article, like in its entirety. That is not the most unhinged thing he says.
Oh my God. He is just genuinely saying, I always think about that. I'm always like, imagine if he did. Like, what if he got arrested for trying to open the Palladium?
No, because Cinderella didn't go to the Palladium. It went into the Gillian Lynn. He was just using the Palladium as like a test ground.
Yeah, but imagine trying to keep the Palladium, like testing the Palladium, getting like what, 1,000 people, like 1,000 people during COVID into the Palladium.
The test at the Palladium would go ahead. So it took place on the 23rd of July, 2020. A test would take place with Beverly Knight giving a pilot performance to 640 people, among them being public health officials and industry figures in the 2,300 seat capacity venue. The pilot was only at 30% capacity with strict hygiene procedures. The front row of stools removed to ensure that there was a 5-meter distance between the performance and the audience. After the show, Andy famously says, I have to say that this is a rather sad sight. I am grateful for you coming to this sort of guinea pig test like this, but the Palladium is meant to be full of people. It's a theatre that wants to love you, and seems he added that socially distanced theatre is a misery for performance, which I guess.
Yeah, I mean, if you were on stage singing your heart out and you look out and there's 600 people in a venue that should hold like 3,000,
you could tell people's like energy, like when you're on stage, or like the thing.
You feed off the audience when you're on stage, and that doesn't mean that as the audience you should sing. You shouldn't be dancing or jumping around.
No, this is the fucking.
But if you look in the audience and it is, well, I don't even care about the Eras Tour stuff. I think, you know, no one in there is being like, I came to watch a very sophisticated film, and I'm so annoyed that people are jumping around.
No, that's what I'm saying is like, you shouldn't treat it like you're at the Eras Tour viewing. You're at a fucking musical. But I just the thought of like having to sing for like Matt Hancock is hilarious though.
I'd love it. What song was sung?
I don't know. Thursday the 13th of August 2020, Andrew Lloyd Webber takes part in a coronavirus trial, saying he will do anything to prove that theatres can reopen early. In a tweet, Andy said, "I am excited for tomorrow. I'm going to get vaccinated for the Oxford COVID-19 trial. I'll do anything to prove that theatre can reopen safely." Which the vaccine is the reason we would all come back to normal. So he really like put himself out there, and taking place in medical
And you know what?
trials is one of like the best
in
things
the
you can do.
demographic.
He was like, yeah, that's the thing.
Andy, again, no disrespect to you. He's pretty old.
He's like 75.
You know? Yeah, he's pretty old. It's, you know, him saying, I'm going to go and get this very new, very untested vaccine in the hopes that we can go back to normal. Kind of an icon for that. Still hate him.
The thing with him and COVID, especially at this point, is he talked the talk, but he also walked the walk. He was very much like, you guys.
He was at this point doing more than the government.
Fully.
Like, to be completely clear, he was doing more than our government.
Our government is useless, and Andrew Lloyd Webber is also useless. But
at this point,
he was doing more.
What date was this?
This was August 2020.
Okay, so at this point, I believe the government is having parties at this point, or is that later?
That's later.
That's later. But they're planning those parties.
No, they're having garden parties. So it's technically
they're having garden
parties. Just, like, weird.
It is immoral, but it's not technically illegal.
No.
The government is having garden parties. What is Andrew Lloyd Webber doing? He's testing the vaccine. He's making sure we can go back to normal.
He is also he's losing money. He's running pilot schemes. This man is working. He's also writing Bad Cinderella.
He's writing Bad Cinderella. He's, trying to find a way for not only Lloyd Webber theatres, his little theatre group, but for theatres across the world. He's trying to find a way for them to reopen as soon as possible. And those kind of procedures that he doesn't come up with them, but that he initially tests will become commonplace for quite a while afterwards.
Oh yeah. On the 5th of December 2020, Andy says that he's optimistic about the return to theatre audiences after the rollout of the COVID-19 vaccine. In this article,
they're having the parties at this point.
Oh yeah, Boris is having
the Christmas parties are going.
The Christmas party is in motion. In the article, Andy states that the opening of Cinderella will be the 30th of April 2021.
Ooh.
On the 11th of March 2021, the Show Must Go On documentary chronicles Andrew Lloyd Webber's fight for theatre during lockdown. With using what went down in Korea as a method of like, look what happens here, surely we can do it everywhere else.
Yeah.
But the thing that's interesting about their constant banging on about how Korea is such an example, Korea had a completely different COVID strategy to us.
Yeah.
I'm not that familiar with it, but I know it was like so different from what we were doing over here.
It was an intense lockdown. It was also anyone who entered the country at all.
Yes.
Was quarantined for 2 weeks in like a separate
hotel.
Hotel. Yeah, it was like a designated hotel for people coming in and quarantining. They weren't allowed to leave their rooms. They would get food delivered like 3 times a day or something.
I think they had to take COVID tests every day to like go walk around. But
I don't even think that's necessarily true.
Yeah.
I think they genuinely kept in those rooms for 2 weeks. And then they could enter the country. And even then, like, nothing was open. Masks everywhere, social distancing. They did what we should have done and what we tried to do.
But
I want to say, you know who else is at fault for the UK not fucking eradicating COVID as quickly as like a lot of other countries?
Who?
Our fucking school.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say this. I'm not gonna say the name of the school, obviously. But basically every other school in the country, especially other schools in London, were doing hybrid learning.
I'm pretty sure we all got COVID.
Yeah, but every other school is doing hybrid learning. They'd be like, this year group comes in on this day, and then every other year group is, online. Or we're all online. Or, these year groups come in, these ones don't. Blah, 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 blah. Having a hybrid learning to make sure that no one got COVID. Our school was like every single year group from year 7 to year 13, because we had a sixth form attached, is in 5 days a week from like 8:30 until 4.
Yeah.
You are in here. And then they were like, however, if someone in your class gets COVID, your whole class has to self-isolate.
Yes.
You all have to go home. But you have to attend lessons.
Yes.
So you have to do that online, or you have to catch up. So it was literally like I definitely did get COVID at some point, but I never tested positive for COVID.
No, but I'm pretty sure I had it like twice.
Yeah.
If my antibodies came back and I had like a ton of them, I'd be like, that checks out.
Yeah. But it was literally like you would come in one day and you were like, huh, the school looks slightly emptier than usual.
Where are all the year 10s?
Oh yeah, year 10 is out. Like 10 of them got COVID, so that the whole year is out. And I'm like, okay.
Okay.
And then the next day, and then you'd go home and you'd check your email because you'd got an email, and it would be like, hey Nell, unfortunately, the guy you sit next to for 10 minutes a day in morning tutor, and you'd never see at any other point during the day, he got COVID, so now you got to be home for a week. You're like, okay.
It was our unhinged time. But thank God Andy was there.
Thank God Andy was there. I wish Andy could have put some of these like measures into our school.
Yeah, I would like Andy just to visit our school, our old school. I think it'd be hilarious.
I don't think we never got our temperature checked at schools. No. I know a ton of other schools did.
I know enough, yeah. But again, our school's not built for that shit. Our school is shit.
I reckon they could have. We had the two. If they had the time to send 50 girls home from school in one day because they broke a dress code that was implemented at 6 p.m. the night before, if they could take our temperature.
If they have time to yell at us about dress code and lanyards, then they have time to yell at us about.
It was just genuinely crazy. And like in so many classes that I had, there was just no social distancing.
Oh yeah, no.
Like some of them where it was emptier classes, absolutely. Like one of my English classes, all of our tables are meant to fit like 2 people on. But we had it set up so they were all individual tables, and you had one person at a table, and it was it. And it was an English literature class, so we were kind of meant to talk and like discuss literature, and we just couldn't because we were like a meter apart from anyone else.
We never had that.
But yeah, I hated how our school handles COVID.
Yeah, it was horrific. Anyway, Andrew Lloyd Webber on the 17th of May, in an interview with BBC Radio 4 World 1 program, called people who don't take the COVID vaccine drunk drivers, which is
icon.
Smart.
If you didn't get the vaccine, not if you couldn't, if you couldn't get the if you couldn't get the vaccine, that's fine.
Everyone should get the vaccine to protect the people that can't get the vaccine.
Yeah. However, if you could have gotten the vaccine and you chose not to,
Laura Osnes, get fucked.
Laura Osnes.
So, anyways, on the 8th of June 2021, the famous Telegraph article would come out.
Oh my god.
In the interview, it's revealed that he might have to sell his 6 West End venues and had to remortgage his London home. In it, he claims he had seen no scientific proof that coronavirus would not spread in theatres. It's a really weird quote. He basically says, I've seen the reports. Don't ask me why, but I've seen them, and I know COVID is not spread in theatres.
Yeah, because theatres weren't open. You can't, if no one's in the theatre, you can't spread COVID there.
It sets out the current restrictions at the time, saying that the world premiere of his £6 million Cinderella depends on social distancing being lifted in accordance with the government roadmap, or Freedom Day on June 23rd.
Freedom Day!
Proposed milestone looks increasingly in doubt, with Downing Street making a decision with more data from scientists by the end of that week. At this point, opening night was set for the 14th of July. At that point, we had all come to the consensus that opening night might not have happened as normal.
Freedom Day wasn't happening.
Freedom Day was not happening by that point. Yet Lloyd Webber tells us with his voice bristling, "We are going to reopen come hell or high water. What if the government demands postpone us? We say, postpone it. We will come to the theatre and arrest us." So that's where the famous quote comes from. The show's ensemble.
He was willing to get arrested.
Yeah, for it. The show's ensemble has 34 people and is not commercially viable when audiences were remained capped at 50% capacity. So you could do theatre, it just wasn't financially viable to do it at that point.
Yeah. And here's the problem. Even if he, like, the first thing he did was reopen Phantom, which it would have sold, definitely. People would go and see it.
Yeah.
If only because it was the first theatre show open. But one, not enough people are willing to risk themselves to go and see Phantom.
Yes, you would.
Even if I'm actually going to say this. If we went into another lockdown tomorrow, but he kept Phantom open, I would die. But if we did and he kept Phantom open, I would not go and see it. would not be willing to risk myself to go and see Phantom or to see any theatre show. There are shows that I'm sad I missed because I basically went to no theatre between 2020 and 2022.
Evan Hansen was your last thing that you saw, and then you didn't see anything until 2022.
Yeah. And I saw Dear Hansen in like 2019.
Yeah, and you saw at the end of 2019.
Yeah, so end of 2019 to the beginning of 2022.
But what a show to come back with.
I know, it was great. We saw Bonnie and Clyde in concert with Jeremy Jordan.
So if I
meant to be Laura Osnes. It was meant to be Laura Osnes, but no, unfortunately, she's a bitch and didn't get a COVID vaccine. So we got Francis Mailey McCann instead. He was incredible.
We love Francis Mailey McCann.
We love Francis Mailey McCann.
Vaccinated, but also because she's a really, really talented person.
She was incredible. Anyways, I saw no theatre over lockdown, and there are definitely shows that I wish I had seen. Cinderella kind of being one of them.
Yeah.
If only for the ability to now say that I had seen Andrew Lloyd Webber's Cinderella.
Exactly. The shit show.
I regret not going out and seeing it. There's also a ton of other shows that I could have gone and seen, and I just didn't.
Yeah, because I started seeing theatre pretty much as soon as it reopened, at the rate that I see theatre now at the moment, because I was like, I've just missed it so much. I need to.
Yeah.
Be More Chill is another one that we should have seen, but we didn't.
Yeah, we just never saw Be More Chill because it was kind of during COVID. And I think as well for us, it was a lot of the stuff of. We definitely could have gone and seen a lot of these shows. But we were one in school full time still. And secondly, again, because like I just complained about, if anyone in our classes got COVID, we were out. Also, it's like I've got mocks in a couple of weeks. We had mocks because we were about to take A levels. If I go to the theatre, and we were still unsure about like the way it worked. If I go to the theatre and I catch COVID by a track and trace, I'm out for 2 weeks. Yeah. And I still did like performing stuff. I did. Oh yeah, same. I did like theatre schools. Yeah. And stuff. And we talked there, and we did performances there. And we had like it wasn't a panto, but it was like a show that we were doing at the end of the year. And I was like, I just don't want to risk getting sick for this because this is something I actually really want to do, as well as like school and stuff. Back to Andy and his unhinged behaviour. Despite the success of the vaccine rollout, mood suddenly changed in an official caution. Once again, the ascendant Lloyd Webber questions the justification for this. I've seen science from the tests. Don't ask me how. Crazy thing to say. You're not a scientist. You went to school for music. Was it music? I believe so. Or like architecture and history. He went to school for something that wasn't science. Yeah, he hated science, I think. Calm down. They can all prove that theatre are completely safe from the virus and not carried here. If the government ignore their own science, they will have the mother of all legal cases against them. If Cinderella can't reopen, we will look at the law about it, and they'll have to compensate us. Okay, question. Yes. Saying the virus doesn't spread in theatres. Yeah. What the fuck is he talking about? I don't know. I reread the quote like 10 times and was like, what? Because it's either saying, oh, there's been no reported cases of people getting COVID from theatre because the theatres weren't open. I think he's insinuating that the government have evidence that COVID can't spread in theatres. Okay, what is so special about theatres? That's what I was thinking, yeah. I think also at the time, Wimbledon, because I read another thing from Andy being like, Wimbledon's going to happen because Boris loves Wimbledon. And theatres aren't going to reopen because Boris doesn't love theatre. It's just so... It's like, I could understand if he was saying, I've seen the science, and the way that we are setting out theatres, the way we're doing social distancing in theatres, COVID doesn't spread that way. Yeah. You know, you won't get COVID if you do it like that. That's a whole different statement that makes sense. Saying we're only filling up theatres to 30% capacity. You know, everyone has to wear a mask, all of this. And that is what is stopping COVID from spreading in theatres. That makes sense. Saying, if you enter a theatre, you legally can't get COVID because I've seen the science. And you can't get COVID. Don't ask me how. But there's just something in the air at theatres in general. Yeah. It's the same thing that popping up in the air at if I walked into the fucking auditorium at school, which was used as a theatre sometimes, couldn't get COVID there.
we never had assemblies in there again, has been stretched to his breaking point. Unfortunately, the government regards theatre as a nice thing to have rather than something necessary. Aside from Dowden, who Oliver Dowden was our culture secretary at the time, he has had no dealings with the top brass. Quote, I don't know Boris at all, but he remarks with some audacity that he has shown no interest in getting in touch. I would like to see Andrew Lloyd Webber and Boris Johnson physically fight each other.
Yeah.
I think the people need to see it. If the goalposts keep moving, his worst case scenario of being forced to sell off his playhouses will become a reality. There is a real risk I might do the last ditch to prevent this from happening. But no one can deny that there are foreign buyers sniffing around who would quite love to have these theatres as trophy assets. They call them bottom feeders, don't they? Which is like, I was thinking about this, like, he literally had to sell the other palace.
Yeah.
Weeks after this happened. And I am, like, as much as I love to complain about Paul Taylor Mills and how I don't think he should have kept Thames open as long as he did, because it was making him a ton of money, I am glad that it went to someone who is aware of the other palace's history, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Rather than for an investment.
I think it's one of those things. He did sacrifice so much trying to get theatres open.
Yeah.
He lost so much money. He had a lot of it to start with, but like he lost a ton of it.
He's still on the rich list, but he's not as high as he once was.
Yeah. I feel a little bad for him. Not bad enough that I'm gonna say I like him.
No.
But I do feel a bit bad. I feel like we've been talking about COVID for about 2 hours.
We're Freedom Days there.
Okay.
This is funny. Andy says that he knew on the 2nd of February that it was very likely that lockdown would be happening. He says, I got a coded message sent to me, happy birthday, from someone at a meeting. So Lloyd Webber gathered his staff and said, okay, folks, we're going to have to close down. We have a doomsday scenario in place and people said you're off your trolley. 6 weeks later, the Prime Minister advised everyone to avoid pubs, clubs, theatres and other social venues. That was the most unhinged thing I've ever read in my life.
Is it?
He was really just saying stuff in this article.
I think that he got a coded message sent to him is a bit weird.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think we were all a little bit insane at this point. Like February 2021.
No, this is June.
This is June 2021?
8th of June 2021, the famous Telegraph article is published.
Yeah, but he's saying that in February.
February 2020, he got a message saying.
Not February 2020. February 2021. Do you know how the year works?
No, in February 2020, before the March lockdown first came into place, Andrew Lloyd Webber claims that he got a message from someone in the government saying that lockdown was going to happen. Okay. For months, he has been a proactive but palatable collaborator with the official dome. On an inside track before the news spilled out last year, so 2020, he says he knew from February 2nd, from an official source in the government, that there would very likely be a lockdown. I got a coded message sent to me, happy birthday, from someone at a meeting. So Lloyd Webber gathered his staff and said, okay, folks, we're going to have to close down. We've got a doomsday scenario in place. And people said, you're off your trolley. 6 weeks later, the Prime Minister advised the nation to avoid pubs, clubs, and theatres and other social venues.
Okay.
I think that's pretty insane.
Yeah.
I had to read that a couple of times because I was like, am I reading this right? This article was just insane. But on a lighter note, he did say he tried to stop the Cats movie. Like, right at the end. The interviewer's like, Andrew Lloyd Webber gets in his car to go to leave, and he's like leaving the Gillian Lynn. And as it's ending, he goes, I wrote to the head of Universal and said, you've got a car crash on your hands unless you get a grip on this thing a year before they made it. I didn't even get a reply. I'm
guessing that's more about COVID.
What? The Cats?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Well, get a grip on this thing implies that it's more that nothing was happening and they needed to film it so they could do most of the editing from home.
No, but Cats came out before COVID. It was the last film you saw before COVID in cinemas. We saw
Oh yeah.
He just randomly put that in. Yeah. So that was the famous Telegraph article where everyone just took away the fact that he said he would get arrested for for Cinderella, which was pretty funny. 21st of June, Freedom Day would be moved to the 19th of July instead. So on the real Freedom Day, 19th of July 2021, it would be delayed. Cinderella would be delayed again due to a COVID case and everyone having to self-isolate. At this point, Andy would call the current system completely unattainable. In another statement, he stated, "Today is Freedom Day and I've been forced to make the heartbreaking decision to not open my Cinderella. Cinderella from the outset, we have employed a vigorous testing system for all the cast and backstage crew before they begin work. On Sunday, as part of this process, we identified one positive case and a member of our cast who has a cameo role in the show. Despite the impossible conditions, they have created a blunt instrument that the government's isolation guidance. We cannot continue. We have been forced into a devastating decision which will affect the livelihoods of hundreds of people and disappoint thousands who have booked to see the show. Cinderella was ready to go. My sadness is with our cast and crew and loyal audience and the industry I've been fighting for. It is impossible to put into words. Freedom Day has turned into Closure Day," which I liked that little end of the statement. The culture secretary at the time, Oliver Dowden, would state, "I am deeply disappointed to hear the news that about Cinderella. I know how much effort ALW has put into his production and how much it means to the cast and crew and theatre lovers alike. Whilst the need to self-isolate is an economy-wide issue, I recognise the particular challenges it presents for the arts. I'm strongly making the case for the government in the meantime. I hope to see it open as possible by buying a ticket." 25th of June 2021, previews would begin and it would officially open on the 18th of August 2021. Reviews. The Guardian would give it 5 stars. The original story and book by Emerald Fennell have a heart and torment for barbed wit, exposing the faulty morals in traditional fairy tales without scrimping on glistening trigs. David Zippel's crystalline lyrics attuned to Fennell's dialogue, cheeky, satirical, yet wistful and uplifting too. Lord Lloyd Webber's richly enjoyable orchestrations range from a grand waltziness to courtly professionals, which matches the deeply felt romanticism, power ballad, and a splash of coronation and rocking guitar riffs. Bewitching melodies abound. Some refrains are iridescent and revealing new tones of scene to scene. It adds up, terrifically OTT, but still warm and inclusive, with a reliable, down-to-earth hero with prominent points about the quest for perfectionism and our expectations of each other and ourselves. So yeah, people freaking loved it, with the New York Times saying the long-awaited show from the 73-year-old industry veteran turns out to be worth the wait. Cinderella is a big, colourful production painted deliberately in broad brushstrokes by director Lawrence Connor, that turns the time-honoured story somewhat on its head. That may result to the result may not quite be the theatrical equivalent of its herring glass slipper, but nonetheless it looks set for a sturdy Western run. Best of all, Cinderella is fun. The Telegraph would give it 4 stars, saying this is Lloyd Webber's first new show since 2015 School of Rock. If there's any justice, Cinderella will match its lengthy run, allowing millions of us to go to the ball. And what a ball it is. Easily one of Lloyd Webber's most engaging materials, family-friendly extravaganza, larger-than-life characters to make up for our lost pantomime season in 2020. It is finally time for Stopsis.
In the exceptionally beautiful kingdom of Belleville, the fields are idyllic, the prince is charming, and the townsfolk are ravishing. Only one stubborn peasant stands in the way of absolute perfection: Cinderella. To the flawless residents and royals of Belleville, the damsel is the distress.
I don't know, I think that kind of captures the main headline of what they're trying to get for Cinderella.
Yeah, it's like what I said earlier.
Yeah.
like the synopsis, the plot that they put forward is good.
Yeah, I do agree with some of the later criticism that it is very bloated and kind of boring. And
What, the show or the synopsis?
the show, like if we're getting into our thoughts, I think it's kind of boring. Don't you have a whole thing about the opening number?
Oh, it's a parody
Yeah.
of
Oliver?
yeah. Who will buy my sweet red roses?
Oh yeah. I do find it very interesting that this whole musical is about kind of about the tourism industry.
Yeah.
Like I always forget that detail. Then I was listening to it and I was like, oh my god, this is so weird. Oh, I feel like we've already kind of covered our thoughts about the show earlier in the episode. I do kind of regret not seeing it. I regret not seeing it. Just to say
Yeah.
I've seen it. And I remember talking with a friend at the time, like when it was like about. I remember looking at it on Todaytix all the time and going, they just need to drop the prices a little bit more. And I remember saying to a friend, and I was like, I think the ticket prices were like £27. And
Yeah.
Like, if it gets down to 25, I will go see it. And then it closed rather spectacularly. So the cast recording would be released on the 20th of July, 2021, ahead of the show's opening. It would have 38 songs with a full runtime of 1 hour and 55 minutes. For a show that's not sung through, that's an insane amount, like, an insane runtime.
Yeah, not including interval.
Not including interval.
Yeah.
For
It's just it's like what we were saying that the fucking every single song is a ballad. Every single song is like 4 minutes long, and some are even longer.
Yeah.
And that it feels even longer because all the songs are slow and like drag, and all of them have so much, not even plot, but like exposition crammed into them.
Yeah. No, I get what you mean by that. There would be special guests, being Todrick Hall, Adam Lambert, and Helen George, who I think was meant to play the Queen at one point, but then dropped out due to scheduling and COVID. I don't know what Todrick Hall and Adam Lambert were doing on this.
It is kind of Todrick Hall's thing.
What, show up in the most random places?
No, like the kind of vibe of the show.
Yeah, that does actually really check out.
Like he has, what's that fucking he has a song about the Wizard of Oz.
Yes, yeah, I know exactly.
You know what I'm talking about,
I
right?
know exactly what
Like
you're talking
that's
about.
like a Bad Cinderella vibe.
That is a Bad Cinderella vibe, but I just found it hilarious how he was on there and it was kind of yeah, it was marketed out.
I'm actually trying to find out. I'm trying to remember what this song was called.
You've definitely played it to me before.
He has a whole album. He has an album called Straight Back to Oz with 10 songs on it.
Yeah, so this is his shit.
I think it was the No Place Like Home one.
Yeah, that checks out.
Yeah, I'm listening to it now. It is. I think it is.
Yeah,
it's either that one or like the Over the Rainbow one.
The one thing that we haven't mentioned about Cinderella that I don't think I've got written down here anywhere is the spinning stage.
Yeah.
Something about it spins, and it's only spinned in the West End run. That's why they were in the Gillian Lynn Theatre, because I can't work out whether or not it was the auditorium that spun, like a section of the seats, or whether or not it was the stage.
Yeah. He actually has and I'm sorry, I'm still on the Todrick Hall thing. No, he has two. He has another Straight Out of Oz album from 2017.
I don't understand Todrick Hall.
This one's a lot long. How many songs? This one has 22 songs. The other one only has 10.
22-song long album is like.
And he's got another one. Hold on. Oh, he's got a deluxe edition, normal edition.
Ah.
Yeah, he's always done like musical kind of stuff.
Well, yeah, he was in Waitress and Kinky Boots and all this other stuff. So it makes sense.
I feel like it just plays into the idea of like Bad Cinderella trying to play on popular people like Harry Hope Fletcher and Todrick Hall and all of that stuff.
Especially internet, like Andy saw what was going down with something like Hamilton and was like, well, I missed the boat to do that with School of Rock. With my next one, let me see whether or not I can tap into this teen market.
It's basically stunt casting in a way that really works.
Yes, this stunt casting feels very authentic and it captures the right amount of people.
I do genuinely think it would have worked better. I would have played partly into the story if perhaps like most of the cast was stunt casted except for whoever plays Cinderella.
Interesting, because yeah.
Which I get why they cast Carrie Hope Fletcher and the role was like made for her, and she does it beautifully. She's like great in the role.
I've seen like clips of her performing it, and it's actually like she makes it entertaining to watch.
Yeah, like I don't think the material she was given to work with was the best.
No.
But she does it really well. And like I'm not trying to say like we shouldn't have Carrie Hope Fletcher in this role. We should. But I also think if it stayed open, they should have done a cast like that, which would have
Oh, I
been really
think they
fun.
did do a cast like that for the takeover that never happened.
Yeah.
So the cast recording would go on to be nominated for a Grammy, losing to Barlow and Bear for the unofficial Bridgerton musical.
Which is crazy.
It's like a stacked list. It's like Andrew
Yeah.
Lloyd Webber, Claude Michel Sonberg, and Alan Boble
Yeah.
for their latest version of Les Mis, the concert.
Yeah.
With Carrie Hope Fletcher. She was nominated for 2 Grammys that year for the same category.
Yeah.
And then it was like Stephen Schwartz for some project that he was putting out, but no, it went to Barlow and Bear. Which we're not going to get into because that's a whole can of worms.
But again, I think it does show what Lloyd Webber was trying to do, which is just that online was really all that they needed at that point. I think that's the thing. It's more so because Bad Cinderella or Cinderella is a thing of pre-pandemic.
Yes.
Like it's made for a pre-pandemic audience, but it was performed to a post-pandemic audience, which is why I actually think it doesn't work anymore. Because a lot of the shows that open freshly, I wouldn't say mincemeat because I don't want to talk about it.
We can't.
And I think a lot of the shows that have reopened, you can kind of tell. Like it's like how Summer Book of Mormon had to be changed.
Yeah.
And I just generally think that post-pandemic we have very different standards and like thoughts what we had pre-pandemic.
And I also think
I think that definitely shows in that like Bad Cinderella initially had really good reviews.
Yeah,
because it was initially really well liked.
When it was on Broadway, I saw someone say like this is the girl boss feminism musical that we all would have loved 4 years ago, but we're completely
it's the kind of thing that if you listen to Six, like you see how Six became popular in 2018. That was this massive thing. And it stayed that way in part. And this isn't a jab against Six or anything. I do genuinely think Six is really good.
Six is fun.
But I think one of the only reasons it has stayed open for as long as it has is in part because of nostalgia.
And also the running costs are probably like minimal.
It's very, you could have again, not a jab against Six, but you could have a borderline empty house.
Yeah.
And you would probably still make close enough to the cost it is to run.
Yeah, no, 100%. But what's interesting about like us being very different audiences post-pandemic is if you look at the West End's 2 longest running musicals being Phantom and Les Mis, they both had revamps either right before the pandemic or right after, like during it.
And I'm trying to leave like those, I don't want to call them classic, but they are like classic musicals.
Classics, yes.
They are classic. I'm trying to leave them out of it because it's like before I even became properly obsessed with Phantom,
yeah,
I always said I wanted to go and see Phantom because it's just an iconic show. It's been open for so long. You have to go and see it at some point.
It was like me when I was like, I have to go see Les Mis now. I know I've talked so much shit about it, but I have to go see it.
It's one of the shows, and I would say the same about a ton of other shows like that. Like a ton of like Sondheim stuff. I'd be like, you should go and see it.
Like I'm glad
because it is classic. We saw a very different version of it though.
But like I'm glad I've seen it.
Yeah. It's like I'm trying to think if I was who I was when I first discovered Six.
Yes.
I would adore Bad Cinderella.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
And I was gonna say this is definitely less serious than all of that. But another reason I really don't think that Bad Cinderella didn't do well.
Yeah.
Is because of its running time in a post-pandemic audience.
Oh my god.
Like we had just gotten used to everything. Like you can put on 2 times speed, a TikTok that you can scroll past the second you get bored. 10 things happening on a screen at once. Like almost basically 2 hours, not including an interval, where you are just sat there listening to the same kind of 2 characters sing another ballad. It gets repetitive.
In an era of like, also like, again, go back to Six, in an era of the one act,
Yeah. Like 6 is a short show, but it's really fun. They have like bright and fun costumes. The plot is not difficult to follow as I feel it is with Bad Cinderella. You know, stuff happens quickly. You have a 3-minute song, which sounds like a pop song, and then someone else says, actually, now it's my turn. Here's an introduction. Here's a 3-minute pop song. Next person comes on. Here's my song. 3-minute introduction, 3-minute pop song. Next person. And all of that. And that works really well. And in that same vein, the reason that Phantom works well, Phantom and Les Mis, I will say, work well as long shows is because there's a level of like spectacular to them. Like obviously the chandelier, the sets, all of that. Yeah. It's why I think the revamped version of Sunset Boulevard is really interesting.
Oh yeah.
Because a big part of Sunset Boulevard is it's always had this incredible set, like this massive staircase and all of this.
And like you think Sunset Boulevard, you think the cars. Also, can someone please send me a Gatsby bootleg so I can work out how they do the cars? I'm dropping the bit.
I really want to see it.
I want to know how they do Gatsby's death. Really passionate
Jeremy
about
Jordan,
this.
please. Jeremy, just tell us.
Jeremy, please.
I want to interview Jeremy Jordan and just ask him about a ton of stuff, really. You can ask him about Gatsby. I want to interview Andy Carl, and I want to say, how do you do the Death and Hope? When you jump from that ladder, how are you back there? Where do you go? Who takes over that damn duvet?
Yeah.
Because I think I know, but I'm also not sure. Like, I want to interview Andy Carl about that.
I've heard people on TikTok talking about like how the sets are really cool. I was like, okay, can you just like tell me like anything other than the sets are really cool? They do the car chase and the pool scene really well, which is like Gatsby. Anyway,
the thing I was saying,
someone send me a Gatsby bootleg, please. Yeah. I'm dropping the bit about not watching bootlegs anymore. Just send me one.
I won't drop the bit. My thing about the new Sunset Boulevard,
I'm going to continue the bit after this, but just send me one.
Which, by the way, I also want to see the old version, but the new production in like Australia with Sarah Brightman. Please,
please.
I'll do anything. Anyways, what I was trying to say before we got interrupted. Sunset Boulevard is also quite a long show. And again, I think the fact that it had these massive sets and like very glamorous costumes and stuff was what made it very enjoyable in the past. Now what I think makes it enjoyable is how fucking weird it is. Why is there a guy walking through the streets of Central with a camera following him? And if he just goes past people who are trying to enjoy their night, why is, the leading actress stood on stage for about half an hour before the show starts? Where is the set? What happens during this show?
Like, why are there swings for camera operators?
Yeah, it seems very interesting, and it's part of that of just how is what Sunset Boulevard used to be turned into this? Makes you want to go and see it, and makes you enjoy watching it.
Like, because when I
would think I haven't seen it yet.
When I first saw the promotion go up for Sunset Boulevard, starring Nicole Scherzinger, who's the next Pussycat Doll, I was like, oh, I know what this is going to be. And then I saw the bows from the first preview and went, oh, maybe I actually have to go see this.
Yeah. But I think this is my thing. I want to make it very clear again. Bad Cinderella is not a good show. It is like, even if I had seen it before the pandemic, I probably would have said, this is not a great show.
I would have been
there are definitely better shows. The songs are kind of fun. The plot is kind of fun, but it's not a good show. But it's especially now. It's before the pandemic, I would have said it's not a good show. Now I'm saying it's a bad show.
So, on that note, let's get into the New York Post review of it. So, on the 25th of October 2021, a couple of months into their run, Johnny Olensky would publish a review with the headline, Andrew Lloyd Webber's Cinderella musical needs work before Broadway. Obviously, like, US reviewers couldn't really get over to London easily to come see this. So this was the first time it was being talked about like in a major US, not just US publication, but New York publication. Yeah. So the way I was listening to a podcast this week, kind of related to this, but they were talking about the New York Post as like a publication. And the New York Post is kind of like their Daily Mail. Like the Daily Mail is still big over there in New York, but like the New York Post is like it. That's why they talk about Broadway gossip all the time. So They say there is a satisfying musical buried somewhere in Andrew Lloyd Webber's Cinderella, currently playing in London's West End. But like the title character, the show could use a fairy godmother's wand. Bibbidi bobbidi, cut 30 minutes. Bibbidi bobbidi, scrap the set and costumes. Bibbidi bobbidi, more jokes and dancing. The problem is the revisionist Cinderella isn't dark and brooding like Phantom of the Opera, with a book by Oscar-winning promising young woman scribe Emerald Fennell. It fancies itself a musical comedy like Guys and Dolls or Hairspray. But at the matinee I attended, the silent crowd might as well have been watching Ibsen. I'm guessing that's something sad. I don't understand that reference. Cinderella at time may bring a tear to your eye, but almost never brings a smile to your face. Fennell's revamped plot starts off campy. Cinderella set in Belleville, storybook French town. Lawrence Connor, turntables, twirls, these sexy people around you so much you think you were auditioning for a DJ. Good joke. One girl hurting the local economy being a teenager is a rather low stakes plot if you ask me, but the musical quickly forgets about it anyway. Our confusion isn't always the book's fault. Connor's plodding one-note direction is the production's biggest offender, and Gabriella Tyesvoda, drab and forgettable sets and costumes come in at a close second, made more noticeable because Broadway has seen dazzling storybook designs of Into the Woods, Shrek the Musical, as well as Roger the Hammerstein Cinderella. But off in his own little corner, in his own little chair, is Andrew Lloyd Webber and his marvellous musical score full of catchy hooks, intoxicating melodies that will make you want to replay it over and over. If the show makes it over to Broadway, the Schubert organization's Robert Wankel has supposedly flown out to see it today, but his trip was delayed last minute. Let's pray his collaborators beat him at the ball. That review is basically saying everything we've said.
Yeah.
It just is. So, in reaction to this fair review, where they aren't actually that rude about Andrew Lloyd Webber and his score, and I did include it because it wasn't important, but they say that the only reason why this show is watchable is because of the performances that were given.
Yeah.
Andy decides to call his cast from his holiday home in Mallorca and rant at them. According to the Daily Mail, there were seen to be a few tears and some were so outraged that there was a vote after Friday's night show of strike action. So basically, Andrew Lloyd Webber got over the tannoy and decided to scream at his cast for 30 minutes over his bad review. Pretty horrific, if you ask me. You're gonna scream at someone, do it in person! Don't do it over the phone! Also, don't treat your employees like that, but...
Especially after you've just spent 2 years trying to get theatre open.
Yeah. He then said performers were lucky to have jobs and that they were working in the service industry. In this article, he also denies having said anything from the cast. The 21st of December, Cinderella would cancel performances until the 9th of February 2022 due to the spread of the Omicron variant. The spread of the Omicron variant is devastating, like so many theatres up and down the country. Day after day, we are forced to make the decision, often at short notice, based on the latest round of test results. To avoid more disruption and protect the quality of the show we give to our audiences, we have no option but to suspend all performances of Cinderella until the 9th of February 2022. We are passionately committed to returning sooner if circumstances improve, but we will keep the situation under constant review. This was an interesting take because whilst shows were cancelled, there's a 2-3 week period where shows were cancelled and then everything kind of went back to normal again. The best way to describe it was almost like a blip. And we were at the theatre before the 9th of February seeing shows. Anyway, there would be changes that were made to the show after that some point, basically in response to the New York Post article. So everything that was criticized in the New York Post was then implemented into change, if that makes sense. With apparently Andy had done this with Love and Never Dies, with most of the changes being considered cosmetic, with there being a photo point, Andy doing the pre-show announcement saying that you cannot film the show, but you can film the curtain calls, which has been dubbed as the Six Effect, with basically getting people to film the Mega Six as free marketing. The bows were then very choreographed and like made for the people of TikTok. They did make the show 10 to 15 minutes shorter. Overall, they created a better show with it being more fun and according to Mickey Joe Theatre, who like he's basically done so much content around Cinderella and then the Bad Cinderella saga. In the award season, it was nominated in the 2022 award season. In the 2022 award season, it was nominated for, I think, for 3 What's on Stage awards, which are fan voted, the What's on Stage awards, aren't they? Pretty sure they are.
I think so.
And at the Olivier Awards, it was only nominated for 1 award, being Victoria Hamilton Barrett for The Queen. Yeah. On the 1st of May 2022, Cinderella would announce via its Twitter page, stating that it would play its final performance on the 12th of June 2022. It is important to note that it was like 15 minutes before it's meant to have a performance, with the cast being told 30 minutes before the curtain call. And Carrie Hope Fletcher not being present at that performance since it was her alternates, with her being told through someone else, like someone who was at that announcement, texting her and being like, we're closing on this day. In a statement, she said, I don't think I have the words, and if I did, I'd probably be advised not to say them. Sending love to all of those impacted by today's news and how today's news was delivered. She further claimed, I was at the show today and was only informed via one of the cast members and a member of the music team. I had no official call from the company to let me know before it was posted online. At this point, it became apparent that there was like going to be a cast change, because most of the cast contracts were up the day that it announced closing. And that's when it started to come out of the woodwork that a new cast were about to start rehearsals.
Oh yeah, I remember this now.
So you was talking about stunt casting Cinderella. I think Cinderella was supposed to be like someone who wasn't a stunt cast. Sonna Stallen, who was meant to be playing the Queen, said that she said in a 164-minute video on her Instagram that she found out she was fired from social media, but her agent did get an email. But the thing is, it was a Sunday, and like in the UK, we take Sundays very seriously. Like stuff's not going down in professional. Also, is important to note, it was May Day bank holiday.
Yeah. It was a bad time.
It was not the time to like tell them on the Friday. You knew that this was happening. Tell them on the don't hire a new cast. Anyway, a really useful group state that who's Andrew's company state that every effort was made to make sure that people knew about the closing and were informed via agents. However, as I said, it was a Sunday on a bank holiday weekend. Like people go away during that time. People are not on their phones. People are not doing business because it's a national holiday, literally. Paul W. Fleming, the General Secretary of Actors Union Equity, made a statement to BBC News saying Equity members made the show. They poured their hearts and skills into it through the worst 2 years in living memory. They are now jobless, effectively sacked by a press release. All unions are fighting forms of this practice right now, and Equity will get compensation for our members after the pain and distress it caused them. That really sucks. During this point, like all of the press releases, it was hinted that Cinderella would be going to Broadway in 2023. So it's like, I've just closed it here, but catch us on Broadway. Andrew said, I'm incredibly proud of Cinderella. Not only did it get some of the best reviews in my careers, but it led the charge to reopen the West End, ensuring that theatre and live entertainment remained relevant in the news. We held the government's feet to the flames throughout the pandemic. Finally, in his final act of bullshit, Andy would not be at the closing performance of Cinderella. Never gave a reason why. He just was not there. But he would send his bestie, Lawrence Connor, to read a letter for him, saying that opening a new musical during the pandemic might have been a costly mistake. This would cause boos within the audience, and the letter, the composer praised the fabulous cast, crew, and musicians, and the superb creative team, kept the government's feet to the flame during the COVID crisis, in which the theatre industry weathered shutdowns and restricted capabilities and severe financial difficulties. The letter continued, I keep thinking if only we'd opened 3 months later. We wouldn't have to postpone our opening twice because of COVID. If only we hadn't chose to close for a month over Christmas and New Year's, thanks again to COVID. And if only we had had a little help from the government's Cultural Recovery Fund. I promise you we would have been here for a very long time to come. He ended with saying Cinderella would be going to Broadway. It's so not the time. You've just basically fired these people for a press release and then you're like, okay, and we're going to Broadway and don't blame me, COVID. Like, I think he had a lot of goodwill from the theatre community during the start of COVID, like when he was right before Cinderella was about to open and it was completely gone by the time it closed.
I'm not even sure that's true. He had so much respect from everyone for all of his other musicals.
Yeah.
Like Phantom and even Cats and Starlight Express and stuff.
Yeah.
And Jesus Christ Superstar and Joseph and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
And then he built more respect during COVID and during Bad Cinderella because he was on the forefront fighting for the theatre industry. And it was specifically just these 2 things at the closing of Cinderella, announcing it on social media and then his shit statement on closing night.
Yeah.
That literally made him lose everything. And he's never really regained it. Because he's done shit stuff before that.
Yeah.
Most of the stuff he's done has been shitty. But it was this thing specifically after fighting for so long to be oh, we're going to reopen theatre. We're going to make sure that everyone has a job. These performers need to be performing or otherwise they're not making money. To turn around and say, nah, fuck you, you're fired.
You guys are
losing. I wasn't getting good enough reviews.
Yeah, you're losing me money now, and I think I can make more money if I brought it to Broadway.
I don't get how you can go from saying, I'm going to remortgage my house, I'm going to sell up half my theatres, I'm going to get arrested in order to keep people performing, keep live theatre live, to saying, it's cost too much money and I don't like you anymore, so fuck off.
On the 3rd of October 2022, Andrew Lloyd Webber would send out invites to theatre influencers and the press outside of the Imperial Theatre, and he would state his retooled version of Cinderella with new songs being led by Lindy Granado, and most importantly, a new name. He would state that it would be opening on the 23rd of March 2023, the day after his birthday, saying that it would be the best birthday present anyone could get. However, this incident would become infamous not because of that, but because Lindy Granado would have to go out with a canister of spray paint and spray the word bad over the show's original logo, saying, I have one thing to tell you. I'm not your Cinderella. I'm your bad Cinderella.
Bad Cinderella.
And then
Cinderella is the catty name that they call me.
And then the song starts playing. This thing has been viewed to death.
I could probably recreate it. I love people that did recreate it.
Yeah, it became a Halloween costume.
Yeah.
I saw a re-upload of it from a week ago, this week on my TikTok, as I was scrolling through, and it has 4.7 million views.
It was just so bad.
And the really annoying thing is that people are this video literally had the text over it being she really thought she ate, and I'm in hindsight it's camp.
No, it is not.
It's funny. I love it. I think her doing it is hilarious, but people don't view it the same way. I do think that the people who went on as it for Halloween are hilarious. Anywho, there would be a massive online thing with people going at it for Halloween and normal people finding out about Cinderella, or Bad Cinderella as it was known. One important thing to know is that this was around the same time that it was announced that Phantom would be closing.
Yeah.
And so everyone was like, oh.
Well, when it was announced it would initially be closing, it would be extended 3 times. Yeah.
But it was oh, this is Phantom's gonna close, and then the next day Cinderella's gonna start performances. So Andrew Lloyd Webber's streak of always having the musical going will always be going.
I made a joke about that exact thing, by the way.
Oh yes, no, that tweet you did.
Yeah.
No, I thought you.
I made that exact joke.
No, it was going to happen.
Yeah, I know, but the thing I'm saying is that that's what was meant to have happened, and then they just kept Phantom open for ages.
They should just kept it open for even longer.
I don't think they should have.
No, it needed a change. September 7th, there would be a video made to imitate the Real Housewives, dubbed the real townspeople of Belleville. The video was shared exclusively with People. They all do catchphrases along with the announcement. Cinderella saying the classic, "I'm not your Cinderella, I'm your bad Cinderella." Carolee Carmello was announced to be playing the evil stepmother, saying, "I'm kind and honourable woman, no matter what you've heard."
It was a good announcement video, to be fair. They did that quite well.
The Bad Cinderella marketing team were good.
Wasn't it then announced that they were going to be fired?
Yes, and did they do NFTs?
Yeah, they did. I feel like Broadway was so much shorter than all the shit that happened on for the West End version, but it was so much more insane. Just all the West End stuff. We spent like an hour just saying. So then COVID happened, and then we thought we were going to get out of COVID, and then we didn't, and then we thought we were going to get out of COVID, and then we didn't. And that's basically all the Bad Cinderella stuff on the West End. Yeah. And then you get to the closing where it went insane. Like, he didn't turn up. He fired them from social media. He said they were a costly mistake. And then he took whatever was going on with him then and kept bringing it up for the fucking Broadway run.
See, like, the Broadway run was fun. If I could, like, choose a production of Cinderella to go see, I would want to go see Bad Cinderella on Broadway.
Yeah, I remember people being like, don't go and, like, hate watch this. Like, don't sell out the theatre. And people are like, no, I'm going to.
Do you remember when Sweaty Oracle went in a full silk tuxedo?
Honestly, one of my favourite memories of the time. Yeah,
I remember we were both waiting for the video of his review to drop.
And I think that he said everything that we've been trying to say for like 3 hours. A lot clearer.
A lot more concise, because he's actually seen it. We have not.
Yeah.
On the 4th of January, it would be announced that there would be new book material by Alexis Shear, with her other big writing credit being Our Dear Dead Drug Lord, which is a play I actually want to read.
I've read it. It's actually really good.
Is it? Because in like one of the reviews of it I've seen, they say that they had to de-British it. I don't know how else to say.
Cinderella?
Cinderella, yeah, Bad Cinderella.
Yeah.
And so it makes sense to bring on someone else to be like, you do it.
Yeah.
Which is like a good idea. The costumes design was also changed.
To a worse version.
I don't like it. And it's also important to note that Lindy Granado would be the first Latina woman to originate an Andrew Lloyd Webber leading role.
Which is kind of iconic.
Which is like...
Well, not kind of. It is
iconic. And I think that... Remember, she was really dirty with that clip of Bad Cinderella they put out.
Yeah. I do remember that.
By the marketing team from the first preview.
There were a lot of things that were handled, like specifically about her performances, that were handled really badly.
Yeah.
In a kind of weird way.
And like the clips I have seen of her are just like in a bootleg. I don't watch bootlegs, but
I would never watch a bootleg. However,
I would never advise stealing from Andrew Lloyd Webber. However,
obviously not.
The clips I have seen of her like performing normally, she's like doing well.
Yeah.
Again, it's not a good musical, but she is performing it well.
So the musical is so carried by the performers.
100%.
And I think especially by the people performing as Cinderella.
Yes, yeah. A lot of the press around the time keep mentioning that Andrew was trying to extend his long streak of keeping a musical open for 43 years. It would open at the Imperial Theatre on the 23rd of March 2023. Andy would not be attending due to family issues. The New York Times said, because Bad Cinderella is not clever, a high-spirited revamp.
A good line to open on. Because Bad Cinderella is not clever.
Yeah. Not the clever, high-spirited revamp you might have expected, casting contemporary fairy dust on a classic story of love and slippers. It has none of the grit of the grim tales, none of the sweetness of the Disney movie, or grace of the Rodgers and Hammerstein musical. Instead, it is surprisingly vulgar, sex-stuffed, and dumbed down. A parade of hustling women and barriers in brassieres and shirtless, peck-ripping hugs. Oh yeah, there's some like random henchmen who are just like nude for the entire thing.
It was quite funny.
Yeah. That's another thing about Cinderella, is it's like, is it for children?
I think a lot of people thought it was.
Yeah, but doesn't she like draw a dick on the statue to make it
She does a
lose?
ton of shit that you would never do in a children's like show.
Yeah.
It's like how people treated the Barbie movie because the content was seen as like kiddie.
And they did do a marketing revamp here in London at one point. Do you remember how the posters all changed?
Yeah.
One of them was very much like, this isn't a kids show, and then the other one was more like, this could be a kids show. But that's very interesting because the New York Times did initially review it and they were like, it's good, it's fun, enjoy. Whereas now they're like, yeah, no, it's not good. Variety say, to clean up the obvious question, Bad Cinderella, which opened at the Imperial Theatre on Thursday night, isn't good. Composed by Webber with lyrics by David Zeppel, it is a modeled, momentumless retooling of the familiar fairy tale in search of a coherent point of view, as if the glass siphoned. The book, originally written by Emerald Fennell, with the Oscar-winning screenwriter of Promising Young Woman, adapted for Broadway by playwright Alexis Shear, is an illogical head-scratcher despite being based on the story most everyone knows. Bad Cinderella, directed here by Lawrence Connor, even manages to gleefully reinforce chronic social fixations on beauty, vanity, and wealth that imports to deem toxicity. The New York Post gave it another scathing review, saying, it's a mess with multiple personality disorder from start to finish during this perplexing, often dull fairy tale spin. And oh, does it spin? You're never entirely sure what you're watching or why you're watching it. I guess his truth. Phantom of the Opera would close on the 16th of April during its... So Phantom closing on the 16th of April meant that Andrew Lloyd Webber only had one show going on Broadway at the time, being Bad Cinderella. So on the 2nd of March, the 2023 Tony Award nominations will come out with Bad Cinderella being nominated for no awards. This was the real like nail in the coffin of Bad Cindy, since most shows do like see an uptick in ticket sales after getting Tony nominations, and reviews and word of mouth really, 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 really do matter on Broadway. And again, they didn't really have the same star as like they did with Carrie Hope Fletcher on the West End. So they really needed some kickback. The week beginning, the 7th of April, it would only have 53% audience attendance, with its best week, it only grossing grossing $6,844,000, which is like really low for a musical in its best week. Like, this thing did not gross well at all whatsoever. With its lowest week, $300,000, which is an insanely low amount of money for a musical. Like, I don't think I can stress that enough. On May 10th, Bad Cinderella would set its final Broadway bow after playing 33 previews and 85 performances. On the 2nd of June 2023, Bad Cinderella would close on Broadway, ending Andrew Lloyd Webber's 44-year streak. There is a really interesting Theatre Minute article with a shortened timeline of Andrew Lloyd Webber's like life and career. With that is Bad Cinderella. I don't know. Do you have anything else to say on the matter?
I don't think so.
All right. Well, we hope you've enjoyed. We hope you've enjoyed this. Bad Cinderella it's an interesting one because it has had such a life, and so little of it has to do with the actual musical. A lot to do with COVID. But do you want to share what we're doing next week?
We are doing Beetlejuice.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah, no, it's Beetlejuice. So get excited for that, and we will see you all next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.